Well, if those numbers don't sober you up, I don't know what will. It's yeah, it's really scary, folks. Remember, anytime government tells you to do something, you know you got to turn around and just go the other way right away, because you know there's nothing but trouble there. I'd like to call on our third speaker now. Mr. John West is associated with the Caretakers Association, and he's been here about 50 years, and he has seen everything and watched the process of what happens here in Victoria and in government in this country. And I'll turn it over to you, John, and let's see what you have to say about this HST and these taxes.
Thank you. Well, to be quite honest, my information about the HST is not as clear as the gentleman speaker before me, and many of those figures are quite beyond my comprehension. What I do know, however, is that this is, strictly speaking, not a legitimate government here in British Columbia. And I think this matter could very well be brought to the Supreme Court of Canada as a constitutional issue on the basis of the fact that less than 50% of the registered voters in British Columbia actually voted. And according to the information I have, 56,000 British Columbians spoiled their ballots. Now that is a very, very significant number. In 1996, because of my sojourn here in British Columbia, which is now 50 years, and I came as a 23-year-old man, I wrote to the Queen because I believed at that time in 1996 that the Royals and the effect of the British Empire, the results of it, which we're living with, still had some effect. So I wrote to Her Majesty and I pointed out that my concern, after all the years I've been here, was that the failure of the political parties to maintain anything like integrity was destroying the political democratic process, not only in British Columbia, but throughout the world. Now there needed to be something done about this, and I gave it another few years, and finally I decided, yes, what we don't need any more of are political pundits and political parties, and what we do need are an intelligent, philosophical people. Not a philosopher king, but a philosophical people. And after my 50 years in British Columbia and in Canada, I can say with some security that this is in fact what Canadians are. They are a thoughtful people who do rise to the occasion when given the opportunity. The opportunity that has been denied them, in my view, is the opportunity not to have to join a political party, to be able to participate in the government process. This has not been allowed, and in fact in British Columbia there are at least one or two occasions, and especially when this present Campbell government, or the previous Campbell government, refused to acknowledge what is technically known as the butt of the NDP when they failed to get more than 3 candidates. Now, what that meant constitutionally was that the Westminster system of Parliament no longer was functioning in British Columbia, and therefore it was questionable whether any of the legislation, including the sale of BC Rail and all those things going way back, have any legitimacy at all. Now the problem failure is that there appears to be, in spite of 5,000 I think lawyers in British Columbia, not one of them with the courage to challenge this kind of misbehavior. This misbehavior must be addressed, and this current situation with trying to bring in this new style of taxation is just further erosion of the political process. This has to be stopped. And the only way it will be stopped is, first of all, signing the petition, which is being sent around, I understand, and is quite popular. And the other thing is to follow those good people who in the last election refused to vote for anybody. Now, what should we do if we got a majority, which we certainly did in the last election? More than 50% of the people refused to vote. Now that is a very, very critical point in our history. The alternative, it seems to me, was from those pool of people that refused to vote, and if there were a proper box on the ballot where they could vote none of the above if they chose, we could have a random selection of a man and a woman to govern our affairs as regional representatives. They could meet in separate men and women's circles to acknowledge the traditions of this province, because this was, remember, and still is, Canada, or the rest of the world. Thank you for your time, and thanks to the organizations for giving me this opportunity. It shows they're very, dare I say, compassionate people. Thank you.